When people's bodies die, they continue to live, just as though they were using the body. Nearly all go immediately into the afterlife or heaven. A very small number stay on the earth plane, unseen but very much alive. A few of these become stuck on earth, not understanding what happened to them. Today there are rescuers or retrievers who go to the place where the stuck person is and talk with the person who is stuck to help them move on into the afterlife. In this video, you'll hear two accounts of retrievers who were able to talk with people who were stuck on earth to help them go into the afterlife. Hello, I'm Dr. R. Craig Hogan, President of the Afterlife Research and Education Institute and Seek Reality Online. Your loved ones undoubtedly will have gone on directly into the afterlife. It is an easy, painless transition that happens without even being noticed. A very few people become stuck when their bodies die. They don't understand what happened to them or where they are, so they stay on the earth plane without moving into the afterlife. For most, though, it is a short delay. But their movement into the afterlife can be hastened by people called rescuers or retrievers. Bruce Moen was one such rescuer. Bruce learned how to go into a relaxed state of mind to communicate with people in the astral plane whose bodies had died but they had not moved on to the afterlife. He used a technique developed by the Robert Monroe Institute in its Lifeline program. I had Bruce speak at a conference on the afterlife that we organized. His accounts of actual rescues are in the book Afterlife Communication, 16 Proven Methods, 35 True Accounts, available on Amazon. Bruce described several accounts of actual rescues, including the following two accounts of what retrievers actually experienced as they helped people move on to the afterlife. The first was the experience of a retriever Bruce called Betty. This is Bruce's account of Betty's first rescue. You'll hear that Betty asked for a helper to help her with the rescue. A helper is a non-physical being who provides assistance to the retriever in helping a person move on from the earth plane into the afterlife.
Betty began by saying that she had no previous experience with retrievals and didn't know quite what to expect. When she asked for a helper to come, a clown in full costume walked out of the surrounding darkness into the scene with her. She described the clown as having a big red nose, wearing big boots, pants with polka dots, and a comically painted face. When she asked the clown, her helper, to guide her to someone needing rescued, the clown turned and began to walk into the surrounding blackness. She followed. When they stopped, a hospital room began to materialize around her. She said the visual imagery was quite clear and that she could see a hospital curtain drawn around a hospital bed. She described a little boy she called Jamie who was sitting in the hospital bed looking somewhat confused. As Betty approached the boy and introduced herself, Jamie explained what had happened. He said that he had gotten sick and that as he got sicker, he was no longer able to go outside to play with his friends. When he became even sicker, he could no longer go to school. Now he was so sick, he was in the hospital and confused by what had happened. From her discussion with Jamie, Betty understood that Jamie's parents, especially his mother, were distraught at his impending death. Each time Jamie's mother was in the room with him, she implored Jamie not to die by saying, "Jamie, don't leave me. Stay here with me, Jamie." Jamie then pointed around the room at all the medical equipment and told Betty that the last time he had seen his parents, they were with the doctor. The doctor had switched off all the machines and drawn the curtain around his bed. Then the doctor and his parents left the room. He told Betty he didn't know what to do now. He had stayed there in his hospital room just like his mother had told him to, but neither his mother nor his father had returned to the room. At that point, the clown helper stepped toward Jamie's hospital bed. Betty said that she expected the boy would be happy to see the clown, but he wasn't. In fact, he appeared to be afraid of the clown. Seeing Jamie's fear, the clown gave a big theatrical bow and tipped his hat to reveal a baby chick chirping and walking around on top of his bald head. Jamie happily slid down off the bed, took the clown's outstretched hand, and they turned together, walking toward the door. Betty followed them out the door and down the hallway toward an elevator. When Jamie and the clown stepped into the elevator, Betty followed, standing behind them. Betty said that when the elevator doors closed, she expected the elevator to go up toward heaven and was surprised when it instead started moving down. When the elevator doors opened, Betty said that she saw a huge grassy field, like a park. There were dogs and cats and goats and ducks walking around the park and lots of other children at play. A little dog walked up to the elevator door and looked up at Jamie. The dog seemed to recognize Jamie, and Jamie seemed to recognize the dog. Jamie left the elevator smiling and laughing as he chased after that little dog that had been his pet before the dog died.
In this second retrieval, one of the people Bruce trained to do rescue work described his session in which he helped a man who had been in an accident move on from the accident scene into the afterlife. This is the retriever's account of what happened.
I had a helper appear to me after another retrieval attempt and took me to a scene of a man buried under heavy wreckage. He was barely visible with only a small portion of his face showing from under heavy wooden timbers and dense foliage. He seemed very surprised that I was able to find him. As a matter of fact, he became stuck in this belief because of his overwhelming feeling that he would never be found because of where he was. He kept repeating that he could not believe I had found him. He was dressed in a blue denim jacket with a leather collar and a plaid shirt. I asked him his name, and he told me it was Jeremy Pritzker. He was 46 years old, and the year was 1958. The place I found him in was Plainfield, Illinois, though I do not know if that is where he lives as well. He kept repeating that I had to let his wife Mary and his 2 sons know where he was and that he was okay. He insisted that I promised him I would do that. He had gone out hunting in his blue pickup truck, which required him to cross a ravine in the woods. There was an old timber railroad trestle that had been abandoned long ago, which he often used to go across the ravine. This time as he attempted to cross the bridge, the timbers gave way and he plummeted to the bottom of the ravine with the bridge timbers and much of the surrounding branches falling on top of him. I told him I had brought some help that would be able to get him out. There were several helpers that showed up at that moment. As we pulled him out, I told him that this gentleman would help him to safety and I pointed to one of the helpers. The man leaned on the helper and they began to walk out of the forest. They came to a large clearing that turned out to be the park. He seemed very disoriented since he was many miles into the forest and knew he had never seen a park there before, but now, just a dozen or so yards away from his hunting spot, they happened upon a city park. Once in the park, he saw a woman wearing a small white hat, a blue and white dress, and white gloves, knitting. He immediately recognized this woman as his deceased mother Doris, and in a half-questioning tone said, "Mom?" It was then that the scene faded from me. The retrieval had been completed.
You can read about other rescues in our book, Afterlife Communication, 16 Proven Methods, 35 True Accounts. You can learn about the Monroe Institute's Lifeline program at the link that's on your screen. I want to reassure you that you needn't worry that your loved one is stuck. Few people get stuck, and those who are move on after a short time. For us and our loved ones, the transition to the next life is easy, quick, and painless. We're immediately in the wonderful realm called by some Summerland, and by others, heaven.